is the last series for the first-time homebuyers training. Hi, I'm Frances Bosch with Keller Williams Realty, Wellington. I'm going to briefly go over from the executed contract to the closing. I would like to introduce to you Joyce Collette of Collette Coordinating Services. Hi, Joyce.
Hi, I'm Joyce Collette, and I am basically a virtual assistant and the go-to person for everyone involved in a transaction from contract to close.
Okay, and I utilize you quite a bit, don't I, to assist me with the closing, because what happens quite often is an agent has to show property and something has to be rushed, and I'm showing property and can't get that document to them, and Joyce will make sure that everything happens accordingly, and I can still show property.
Right.
Okay, and then also, what is one of the first things you do, Joyce?
The first thing that I do once I receive an executed contract from the agent is that I go through the contract and I extract our deadline dates. And I'll go into that a little more later. And then I do a introductory email and I send it out to everyone involved in the transaction, which would be the real estate agents, the clients, buyer or seller, the title company, the lenders, and
attorneys?
If there's an attorney involved, yes, to the attorneys. And then that way I let them know what I am doing and what our timeline is.
Okay. Then what are the three main date deadlines that you have to make sure that everything gets done? What are those?
Well, the very first thing is the effective date on the contract. Because every other date is, dependent on that date.
And that effective date, by the way, is usually the date the last person signed the executed contract.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Then our first deadline is the escrow deposit.
Okay.
Sometimes there's an additional escrow to be paid, and that might happen within 7-9 days. It varies.
Right.
And then there's the home inspection deadline.
Right.
And then we have a financing commitment deadline.
Correct.
And then we have the title commitment deadline.
Okay. Okay. And those dates may vary depending on what your agent has put on that contract.
Exactly.
Okay, and as we're going through these deadlines, when you're doing the home inspection, a lot of times it goes through okay, but sometimes there may be something that, as the buyer, you don't like about the property. Now, if it's an as-is contract, technically speaking, the buyer or the seller does not have to correct anything with the property. But you can still ask for something to be corrected if you really find it to be something you want to make you continue with the contract. But basically, whatever that deadline is for that home inspection, you need to tell that seller yes or no to that contract, right? Because
yes.
That's what these deadlines are all about. Okay, so now, also part of what Joyce Collette does for me is if there's an association or a condo association or homeowners association, we have documents to get to the buyer, to you, the buyer. And those documents, once you receive them, is particularly the condo association. If it's a used condo, you have 3 days to inspect
yes.
that, and she's going to make sure that you sign a receipt saying that you've received
yes.
them correct. And so
yes.
what other things do you do with that?
Well, any documents that come up during the process from contract to close,
Right.
I make sure that they get signed by whoever needs to sign them.
Right.
And get them to the right parties. And I make sure that each department is doing what they're supposed to do to be prepared for closing.
Okay, great. She basically is the one go-to person for everybody because she's
right.
going to make sure she's going to bother everybody until it happens.
Yes, I'm the...
She's really phenomenal with that. Okay, now, let's say everything's been done, you're okay with the home inspection, the loan commitments come through, everything's okay with your loan, and you've gotten the title commitment and you've reviewed that. The title company is the company that is responsible for making sure they get the title work to make sure there's no liens or assessments on the property. And you've reviewed the title commitment and you're fine with everything. And now you're ready to do your final walkthrough. On that final walkthrough, your agent should attend it with you. You're just making sure there's nothing has drastically changed with the property since you last viewed the property. You might be also asked to sign a document that you're okay with your final walkthrough. then you should also have had an opportunity, at least 24 hours, to examine the HUD or the closing settlement statement. And Joyce, once again, is going to make sure everybody gets that final HUD to review. And what challenges have you seen with that, I guess is what I want to ask you.
With the final HUD?
Yes.
Sometimes the escrow deposit might not be listed on there. Sometimes if there's a processing or transaction fee, that might not be there. Sometimes the commission could be wrong on there. There's several things that could go wrong.
And if you have any questions, you should be either able to really you should go to the title company or your lender, because there might be some lender fees on there you question, and ask about them. If you're not in agreement with something, ask. But your agent should also be familiar enough with the HUD where they can tell there's something not quite right, and they're still going to go to the title company, because it's going to be up to the title company, if that's who's doing the closing, or an attorney, to repair the HUD, to make it correct. Okay, now you're at the closing table. You're finally ready to sign all the documents. You're okay with the HUD, and you've wired your money. In this county, quite typically now, the closing company wants the money wired, and that should be on your closing settlement statement.
And you're happy, very happy that this whole ordeal is over.
Finally come to an end. It's become very challenging a lot of times with the lenders these days. And you're going to be at the closing table. The closer, if it's a title company, they have a closer. If it's an attorney's office that you're closing at, they also will have someone closer. And a closer, what they do is they're reviewing all the documents with you prior to you signing. Once you've completed all the signing, the contract or the HUD has to be what we call funded. It did not just closed, but funded. All parties must sign the closing settlement statement and all documents. But when it's funded, that means all money is received by the closing company. Once that's received, guess what? You finally get the keys to your brand new home, or at least a new home to you. I hope you found this series very informative. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, Frances Bosch, 561-352-4156. Thank you for watching.